time ago, villagers used to actually work hard to get their meals. And they used to farm for their entire family of 7 kids. But now, they've multiplied like cockroaches. And they don't know where to eat because they can't feed that many people. We call that a baby boom. So this genius thought it would be a great idea to segregate crops and plant only one superior plant, wheat. They began to monocrop and began using tillage. Sounds all fine and dandy, right? Nope. All the tillage has decreased in soil quality, the monocropping has made plants more susceptible to diseases, and now the wheat looks like shrubs. And all of the water usage has basically eroded the soil and wasted all the water that was supposed to be used for the agriculture. So, little Mr. Villager has caused a big issue.
Oh, who is she? A misty memory, a haunting face. Is she alone and gray? Am I in love with just a thief?
Alright, but with all seriousness, let's actually get into this. First off, we're going to tackle the obvious here, which is erosion, because whenever it's going to rain, all of the soil is going to get washed away, and then there's no more soil to plant any crops. Also, I think a lot of you are familiar with this graph, but I'm still going to use it because it's a good graph. But look at how much water we waste simply to grow crops. I mean, I guess we're not technically wasting all this water, but we also don't need this much water to be used in crops. Now, this is very alarming statistics, especially since this is just from 2012. Imagine how higher it has gotten here in 2025. We have a limited amount of water on this planet. It is not infinite. And because of that, we have to be very mindful of how we use this resource, especially because of how fast we are polluting it. Now, there is a lot of things wrong with pesticides and herbicides. They might as well be the root cause of your personal issues too. I'm going to start off with soil degradation because repeated use can reduce soil fertility and kill beneficial microorganisms, which disrupts soil ecosystems. They can also contaminate water via runoff from fields, and it can carry chemicals into rivers, lakes, and groundwater. Not to mention that if you are spraying it, it can release volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, into the air, and they could possibly contribute to pollution. And the moment they work, they don't only harm the insect that it's targeted against, but they also harm pollinators like bees, butterflies, and other insects that are actually beneficial to the ecosystem. But it can also, as I mentioned, run off and harm other wildlife in other ecosystems far away from whatever agriculture is going on in that specific area. Okay, and now I'm going to talk about the thing that I find most interesting about herbicides and pesticides, and that is superweeds and superbugs. I know I'm kind of like clumping them together, but they are kind of similar in a way. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the parkour background, because I know that this is 6th hour and a lot of you guys are just done and tired, just like me. So enjoy this while I yap your ear off. First, we're gonna talk about superbugs. So, superbugs are basically pesticide-resistant insects. How it works basically is that one offspring is not 100% resistant, but is a little bit resistant to whatever pesticide or herbicide that you're spraying, and then it breeds with another half resistant, and they just keep breeding it out until it's 100% resistant to whatever herbicide and pesticide. So kind of like natural selection, except the reason is not natural. For example, the Colorado potato beetle. It is resistant to numerous insecticides, including DDT, carbamates, and some 2 other ones that I literally cannot spell for the life of me. But they have infected potato crops in North America and Europe, and they are very hard to control. Another example of a superbug is the diamondback moth, which is resistant to a lot of Bt toxins, and it's also resistant to genetically modified crops, which I find really interesting, and it damages a lot of vegetables like cabbage, broccoli, and kale. Now we're gonna move on to superweeds. The first one I have on my list is Palmer amaranth, which is resistant to Roundup, and it's very fast growing, hard to control, and we find it in soybeans and cotton fields, especially in the southern parts of the US. Another example of superweeds could be also the water hemp, which is also resistant to Roundup. It also infects corns and soybeans.
Oh, Mr. Williams!
Elmo.
What are you going to do with that stick?
Oh, there's lots of things you can do with this stick, Elmo.
Okay, now that I showed you the issue and all of the problems about herbicides and pesticides, now you may be asking yourself, what can we do then? Integrated Pest Management, or IPM for short. Basically, I'm suggesting that we use all natural methods to get rid of all these pests. For the Colorado potato beetle, I think that it would be a great idea to encourage natural predators like lady beetles or stink bugs instead of actually using chemical insecticides, or we can use natural fungus like these ones on screen to get rid of those bugs. Another way we can get rid of them is by crop rotation. So if we do plant our potatoes in different areas, the bugs aren't really going to be able to keep reproducing that fast. So we can easily get rid of them by simply losing them. For the diamondback moth, also I would encourage to use natural enemies like parasitic wasps, spiders, ground beetles, or birds. Just as an introduction of predators. Same thing that I mentioned for the previous one, to use natural fungi that would kill or drive the insects away from the plants. And of course, crop rotation. Now, for the other 2 weeds that I mentioned that are also resistant, it's a little bit harder to get rid of them. However, it's not entirely impossible. For example, again, crop rotation works best with all of these. Crop rotation kind of solves a lot of things, but the problem is that it's very expensive, high intensive labor, and it's just really hard to do. So another easier way that I would suggest getting rid of those really pesky weeds would be to invest in cover crops. The best crops to use to get rid of these weeds are oats, buckwheat, hairy vetch, crimson clover, and rye. All of these plants can outcompete the weeds that I previously mentioned, and sooner or later take them out. So there's a little bit more thinking that goes into integrated pest management, but it's very rewarding and you don't get to destroy the ecosystem while you're doing it. And here's a little example of how I would personally do a more ecologically friendly farm. I know that obviously monocropping and all of these issues that I mentioned mainly come from industrial farming and not really just farming. Obviously, there's more to be said about this topic, but I tried to do my best within 10 minutes.